Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day, it will brighten all the way. If you keep on the sunny side of life.
Hi there, my name is Joe Martin. I'm pastor at First Baptist Church in Toledo, Washington, and this is one of the Cabin Talks, Midweek Talk. And this is kind of a prequel to what we'll talk about on Sunday when we talk about invitations in general. But I want to talk to you about Christ's 3 invitations. You know, invitations are being invited to a meal, particularly in Jesus' day and in Bible times, was a big honor. It was really saying you're invited into our family. And when someone invited you to be a part of what they were doing, it was more than just like, come to this event. It was an invitation to be part of that life, part of that entire, maybe either the community or the family or of the particular group of followers. So we see in Christ's invitations, it's a pretty simple invitation. It simply just says, come. And so I'm going to just talk about 3. There are many of them, but the first invitation seems important to pay attention to is from Mark chapter 1, verse 16. It says, and Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, and he saw Simon, the brother of Andrew, casting a net into the lake, for they're fishermen. And he said, come, follow me. And Jesus said, I will make you fishers of men. Of course, the first invitation was, come and follow. Come follow me. And this was, and of course it says, and at once they left their nets and followed him in verse 18. Jesus gives that command to them. And it's the invitation to be his apprentice. This was not unique to Jesus to have disciples. He was a rabbi, and this idea of become a man fisher was the idea. If you'll follow me, I'll help you, I'll train you to become a person. I'll train you to become a person that can change the lives of people, that you become a fisher of men. I heard one pastor say that this was the equivalent of Jesus coming along to some guys who had no real hope of formal training, being offered a full ride scholarship to the best school possible. And he said, you come with me and I will make something of you. I will make you into fishers of men. You'll learn how to catch men. And so Jesus' invitation to each of us is to come to him, to come now, and to come and follow him. And of course, really the whole Christian life is really, no matter where you find yourself, you are, if you want to have your 5-year plan laid out, your 5-year plan ought to be summed up in follow me. He says, follow me, and I will make something into your life. The second invitation we see that Jesus says, and this may come a little bit further in, he says, now I want you to come and learn. Come and learn my heart. And I think this is the hardest in some ways, maybe not the hardest, but let's say it's the longest invitation we get. He's saying, because it's a matter of a heart issue, and hearts are a challenge, right? He says, come to me in Matthew 11:28, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble of heart, and you will find rest for your souls. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. Once again, the invitation is come, but it's with a different focus. Take my yoke. And a yoke was a term in those days for a body of teaching, or a training yoke. It was a word picture for when they would train oxen. They would put the mature ox that was already trained, probably on a threshing floor, and put another ox, a young ox or an immature ox, with it so it could learn to submit to the yoke. The yoke is designed that if you move or you fight it, it hurts, and so it kind of focuses your power and your direction. And so this was a common term, to take my yoke, and other leaders and teachers would talk about this as well. But Jesus was saying, I want you to be yoked with me, not because you have to pull the load, but you're to be in there to learn, to be trained. And so you are to submit to the yoke, to learn how to submit to the yoke, to learn from me. You walk along beside me, you do what I do. And he says, but I want you to learn from me, and here's what I want you to learn. I want you to learn this submission to the yoke, for I am gentle and humble of heart. The word gentle means submissive, and humble means I'm needy, I'm dependent, and you will find rest for your souls when you do this. For my yoke is easy. My yoke fits you well, as long as you don't pull against it, as long as you aren't, trying to take off. My yoke fits well. It's easy. It's well fitted. And my burden is light. You don't have to carry anything. You're just here to learn how to submit to that yoke. I want you to learn my heart. And this is one of the moments in the Bible where Jesus says, this is the center of my heart. These are the two things that you really need to learn on a heart level. And man, these take a long time. I'll be honest with you, I'm kicking against that yoke a lot at times. And it's painful. And it's not just painful for me, it's painful for others. For I am gentle, I am submissive, and I am humble. I am needy in my heart. And I'm maintaining that. I'm staying in that. And when I pull against that, it's painful. And so I'm learning to walk alongside him. And he's carrying the load. But this is the call. This is the invitation to learn. And then the third one that we'll talk about today, and there's quite a number of others. Come and surrender to serve. Come surrender to serve. In some ways, this is the hardest. I think the easy yoke, or the submitting to the yoke of humility and gentleness, is perhaps the longest. It's the lifetime one. But this is the surrender to serve. This is really the idea of suffering, of being willing to do the hard things for God's people, what becomes later the church. He says this, and this is a passage a lot of you have heard before, but Jesus tells his disciples in Luke 9, he says, and he was saying to them all, if anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake, he will find it. Or he is the one who will save it. For what is a man profited if he gains the whole world and forfeits himself? And Jesus is saying, look, if you really, I want you to come and surrender to serve. And this was really hard, and it's hard to hear. I told you a while back that of all the people, at least in America, that profess to be Christians, about 72%, only less than 8% would embrace this, would really say, I really want to follow Jesus. I really want to live that life. Because this involves caring about what he cares about. He was saying to them, if anyone wishes to come after me, anybody, you got to deny yourself. You got to be willing to say, I know this is what this is what I want. This is what my desires are. I've got to put those down. I can't make them my priority. My desire to be happy all the time and to feel good all the time and to indulge myself all the time. And then you have to start there. with a willingness to surrender that. And then you must deny yourself. You have to take up your cross. What is the cross? Well, Paul filled it in with meaning later in the book of Colossians. He said, I'm filling up that which is lacking in the sufferings of Christ for the sake of his church, for his body, that is the church. He wasn't saying that we can add to the atonement, but he was saying that there is a suffering that goes along with helping God's people become everything that they want to become, that they need to become, but he wants them to become. There's a weight to it. And so he's saying, look, you have to take up your cross daily and follow me. And this is a daily thing for you to look out for other people, to consider other people, to consider God's church, to say, I don't feel like it today. I don't really want to do that, or I don't really want to call them, or I don't really want to serve them, or I don't really want to give that, or I don't even want to show up for a gathering. But you say, no, I'm going to deny myself. I'm going to do what's best for God's people to help them become everything God wants them to become. And then I'm going to follow him. I just want to tell you, if you aren't willing to deny yourself and you aren't willing to take up that cross, don't kid yourself. You're not going to follow him. Because as soon as it gets hard, or as soon as it starts to require you to get pinched a little bit, you'll just quit. And a lot of people do. This is why we see people just migrate from one religious community to the other, because it gets painful sometimes. And it requires them to put themselves second, or maybe further back. In a world that is given over totally to you have to, this is all about you. Jesus is saying, it's not about you. And he says, and we do all this to save our lives. I want to get everything I can. I want to experience all that I can out of life. And he says, whoever wishes to save his life ends up losing it. And we see this over and over again. People who totally give in to themselves all the time, they're trying to, do that. They end up missing. The one who gives his life is the one who saves it. And he said, what does it really gain you if you gain everything in the world, which you won't, but you end up losing yourself? You lose who you really are. You see, Jesus invites us. He says, I want you to follow me. And he says, I want you to learn from me. And then he says, I want you to surrender and serve me by serving other people. And what will you say about that? This is why it's become kind of cliche, but people say, I'm not a Christian, I'm a Jesus follower. I want to say, are you? Are you saying yes to those invitations? And what will you say today? What invitation of these three, and maybe there's obviously others, what invitation is he giving you today? And what will be your answer? I really hope that you'll ponder that. Take a few minutes. And then this Sunday, be willing to gather with other believers. I want to encourage you. We have our 8 o'clock service, and then 9:30 breakfast service. We'll be talking a little bit more about this, a second part on how to deal with anger, and it's hard. It's a work in progress. And then we'll be talking more on Sunday about invitations, the invitations we give to others and the invitations God gives to us. I hope you'll come, and I'm looking forward to seeing you. And share this with somebody if you think it'll be helpful to them. God bless you. Thanks for watching.